Hey there again, guys. So I apologize for earlier. We're gonna get this done. So no matter what, when I have a stream, I'm gonna make sure that it's done. So we're gonna try this again. So make sure everything's working as it should. But again, guys, I really apologize. It's kind of checking calls with my clients this week, so it's always crazy on these weeks. So I just want to make sure that they're taken care of. So I have to keep them together to have make sure their stuff is, where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and get into this topic. We're going to start from the beginning. Again, guys, this may be a little bit shorter than normal, but I want to go through this topic. And anytime I do these streams, I do want to go through them. I don't want to skip them at all if I have the chance to do them. So, again, what we're going to be going over is nutrition for muscle gain, and it should also support long-term health. So, like I've mentioned, you know, when I'd initially started the stream, what we're going to be talking about in particular is, of course, why nutrition should support muscle gain in itself and not, well, not just support muscle gain, but help with long-term health. And that's where we're going to be diving into some of the points to keep in mind. So I'm going to go over a few points that I may have already went over, but I still want to discuss these points. So, of course, you want to think about building muscle without sacrificing health. Excuse me. So, building muscle should make you feel better and not worse. But a lot of people chase muscle growth in a way that slowly works against them. So, they push calories higher and higher, and they train harder every week and ignore the signals their body is giving them at first. Progress comes quickly, then, of course, things start to shift. So, energy drops, recovery slows, sleep becomes inconsistent, and workouts feel heavier and not stronger. So, that can be the cost of building muscle without supporting your health. So, when it comes to building muscle, you have to be strategic again with how you approach muscle gain. And like what I discussed before, you have to make sure that you have a combination of basically combining both your nutrition alongside your workouts and that they complement each other properly. And so there's a difference between how you approach your calorie surplus, which is a bulk for overall muscle gain, versus, when you do a dirty bulk and you're not focusing primarily on your nutrients. So these are two different approaches that you need to be aware of, and you need to notice the difference with these two, and that you focus on choosing smarter options when you are thinking of course, prioritizing muscle gain, but then at the same time, you want to support the long-term health benefits. So what you want to think about is a smart calorie surplus. Now, a calorie surplus and a calorie deficit are two different terms that you may not have likely heard. But there are other terms for these, which is of course, a bulk and a cut. So if you've ever heard those terms, normally they're thrown around, in weightlifting sort of environments. If you hear somebody say that they're in a cut, that's basically a calorie deficit. So they're basically doing calories, consuming calories less than their maintenance calories, which their maintenance calories is what's keeping them at their current sort of level. And then if you're focusing on, of course, muscle gain or calorie surplus, this is generally focusing on consuming above your maintenance calories. So 200 to 500 plus above maintenance calories is a controlled increase in those calories. So you want to focus on nutrient dense foods, which is quality proteins, carbs, and healthy fats. You want to also support steady muscle growth with minimal fat gain. And you also want to think about promoting better energy digestion and recovery, easier to maintain for long term consistency. Now, when we're thinking about a proper calorie surplus, that would be, of course, focusing on your quality nutrients. So you want to focus on quality proteins, quality carbs, and quality fats. So with your proteins, this is generally lean meats. Of course, this is salmon, grilled chicken. as well as any other lean meats. It could also include beef as well. And then you've got your healthy carbs, which are generally your whole grain options. You've got brown rice, quinoa, and anything to that effect. It's going to be your healthy carbs. Of course, whole wheat bread could also be an option. With healthy fats, you generally want to think about avocados, adding olive oil, as well as other options that could include, like healthy nuts and seeds, anything like when you think of chia seeds or even like, walnuts, things like that can be a good option for your healthy fats. So think of those options as well. So that's what we want to focus on primarily is the calorie surplus. Now with the dirty bulk, this is what you don't need to focus on. So a dirty bulk is again really just eating whatever just to try to get your calorie intake. In simple terms, that's basically what it is. So it's an excessive calorie intake with no structure. So this relies on low quality, highly processed foods. So you're just increasing your calories just to increase your calories. And what this does is this leads to rapid fat gain alongside muscle. So this can cause low energy, poor digestion, as well as sluggish performance. So what this does is this often requires long, aggressive dieting phases later. So this isn't supporting you in the long term for muscle gain. So it's best to start now focusing on your quality nutrients as much as possible. So don't just think about trying to increase your calorie intake. Think about being strategic and mindful on your calorie intake while getting it where it needs to be, but choosing the best, of course, calories in there. Like what I've mentioned with quality proteins, carbs, and fats, that's what you want to think about the most. So the next point is, of course, carbohydrates. We're going to discuss these points a little bit further and why they're sort of significant. So carbohydrates for strength, recovery, and better training output. So why do carbs matter in particular? So carbs matter because they are the primary energy source for strength and high performance training. So this supports muscle glycogen, which is a stored fuel source in your body for workouts. So you get glycogen when you include carbohydrates. And what this does is gives you adequate nutrition when you're performing workouts. So this also helps to maintain intensity, endurance, and training quality. And for strength and performance, this fuels your heavy lifts and explosive movements. This also prevents early fatigue during workouts and helps you push more reps, more weight, and better volume. So for recovery, this replenishes glycogen, of course, giving you that energy stored back after training. It reduces a muscle breakdown in the body and supports repair. So it's helping to aid in that muscle protein synthesis process, even though muscle protein synthesis, of course, you get benefits from protein itself in that process. Carbohydrates do get a benefit because they do help to support the repair at the same time, that muscle repair process. So it works with protein to enhance that muscle recovery. So both of those nutrients are complementing each other. I know a lot of times we give carbohydrates or carbs in general a bad rap, but they do support protein in a lot of ways. But the way that they support protein is all dependent on the quality nutrients that you consume. So keep that in mind if you're, trying to include, carbohydrates in your overall diet. So the next point we want to go over is healthy fats. So healthy fats are something that we don't necessarily talk about as much, but it's very significant because it helps with a lot of hormone-based support in the body. So healthy fats and hormone support for muscle growth. So why do healthy fats matter for muscle growth? So healthy fats are essential for your hormone production in the body. This is especially true when it comes to testosterone. So which is going to play a key role in muscle growth. So that's why, again, why men generally gain muscle more, of course, is because of the higher, amount of testosterone. So this is playing a key role in muscle growth. So this also is going to help with recovery and overall performance. So when you cut your fats too low, this can negatively impact your energy recovery and long-term progress. So hormones don't work without fats. So dietary fats support the production and regulation of hormones that control muscle repair metabolism, and recovery. Without enough fats, your body may struggle to maintain an optimal anabolic, or in other words, muscle building environment. So that's another thing you need to keep in mind. Again, like I mentioned with healthy fats, that is, like with avocados, olive oil, again, like the nuts and the seeds, or you can, take supplements that can help to, increase that healthy fat level, or you think of fish oil and things like that. So anything like that's going to help with, that hormone support. So not only is those healthy fats helping with your overall hormone support in the body, those regulation of hormones, but also it's going to complement your other nutrients, which would be your carbs and your protein. So it's still important to include healthy fats, even though a lot of times we do kind of neglect them because they're not something that we think about as much in the overall, grand scheme of our nutrition. Because a lot of times we kind of prioritize so much on our carbs and our proteins, but we don't think about fats. So just know that fats do play a good, supporting role in, your overall muscle growth process. So the next point I want to go over is micronutrients. So those points that I mentioned previously were primarily our macronutrients. So macronutrients are, of course, your carbs, your fats, and your proteins. But micronutrients are, again, the less thought about nutrients that we can consume. So the difference between macro and micro is that macronutrients are nutrients we consume in a large amount, which in turn is, macro itself. But then micronutrients are nutrients we consume in smaller amounts. So these are usually the missing link in muscle growth. So with micronutrients, what you need to think about is these are your vitamins and your minerals. So they don't really provide calories as much, but they control how your body uses nutrients to build, repair, and perform. So again, think of micronutrients as your vitamins and minerals. So you think of like vitamin A, E, D, and K, zinc, all of these other sort of nutrients. That's what you want to think about when you think of micronutrients. So without them, muscle growth is limited no matter how good your training or macros are. So B vitamins can help convert food into usable energy, allowing you to train harder, longer, and with better output. And keep in mind, with a lot of foods, there can be a good source of particular vitamins and minerals in specific foods. So you wouldn't necessarily have to supplement, you know, your macronutrients as much, because a lot of times you can find them in the same foods that you may find from what you would consume from, say, focusing on your macronutrients, or your, anything like protein and carbs. So a lot of times you can find those vitamins in those foods, but then sometimes you may have to supplement it in a lot of different ways. So again, B vitamins are a good vitamin to think of. Any minerals like magnesium and potassium. So think about potassium. Like I mentioned, even though you may have, foods that you're focusing on for your macronutrients, potassium, like that's coming from bananas. So with that, you're going to get a combination of, a little bit of those carbs, and then you got, the potassium, which is that mineral that comes from bananas. So you've got that too as well. And then calcium. Calcium, you think of milk and things like that. So a lot of the things you normally, may include, like if I was to say calcium, like with me, normally I would include like maybe milk with a protein shake. So you kind of see what I'm saying is that some of your macronutrients can sort of already be in your existing diet and you're just not aware of it. But then there are times where your specific vitamins and minerals may be lower than what you should be at. And that's the way that you can supplement it. Like when you, get certain vitamins, like if you go to the store and get particular vitamins, that's of course to help support you to get that vitamin up to where it needs to be to supplement your diet. So again, what these sort of vitamins and minerals are going to do, and especially when you're talking about minerals like magnesium, potassium, and calcium, is that they're going to help with muscle contraction, coordination, and reducing that fatigue at the same time. So this is something else that you can think about as well. So gut health and nutrient absorption for growth. So your body can only build muscle from what it can digest and absorb. So if your gut isn't functioning well, even a perfect diet can fall short. So again, your proteins, carbs, fats, vitamins, and minerals must be properly broken down and absorbed to support muscle repair, energy, and recovery. And that sort of goes back to the same concept where we're talking about quality nutrients. When you have quality nutrients in your diet, that is going to, really help with your gut health because you're being smart with the choices that you're choosing. So a healthy gut is going to support immune function, reduce inflammation, and is going to improve how your body recovers between workouts at the same time. So that's another thing you need to think about as well. So the calorie surplus sweet spot. So eating excessively doesn't speed up muscle growth. It often leads to increased gain slower, fat gain, slower recovery quality, and harder dieting later. So muscle growth is a slow process. So what you need to think about is that a moderate surplus is going to give your body the resources it needs to recover, repair, and build without overwhelming the system. So here's a simple strategy to think about when we're thinking about really having the proper calorie surplus. So you want to increase calories gradually. So you want to focus on small adjustments. Prioritize protein and quality foods at the same time. You want to use carbs to support training performance, and you want to monitor progress, not just on the scale alone. So that progress can be done through measurements as well. It can be done in a lot of different ways. You can see progress in multiple ways. But what you want to think about again as an overall sort of idea is that you want to focus on quality calories, quality nutrients, proteins, carbs, things of that nature as much as possible so that it's going to help with the muscle gain process. So, sustainable bulking and how to grow without burning out your system. So again, we want to be smart with how we do bulking. And again, to clarify, bulking, that is your calorie surplus, where you're consuming more calories than normally what your maintenance calories would be, which your maintenance calories is what's keeping you at your existing weight. So sustainable bulking is a process of building muscle uh, with a controlled intentional approach to eating. So that supports performance, recovery, and long-term health without unnecessary extremes. So building muscle does not require eating everything inside. So a smart bulk is going to focus on moderate calorie surplus. So generally 200 to 500, you know, calories above your maintenance is where you want to focus on. And recovery while helping limit excessive fat gain. So more food is not always better. So building meals around protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats, as well as micronutrient rich foods are going to help with support muscle growth while also at the same time protecting digestion, energy, and overall health. So what you need to think about again when we're thinking about, like what I've talked about previously with our meals. We want to anchor our meals generally around our protein and then of course build around there our carbs and our fats. So when you include a good protein source in your meals, it's generally going to keep you fuller longer. So that's another thing you can think about with bulking and focusing on, again, anchoring your protein as the main, portion of your meal and then adding those other nutrients. But again, it's all about balance with how you approach this. Your quality nutrients, quality macronutrients, that's going to help you with making your bulking more sustainable so that it's, again, you're not going into this dirty bulking and you're just trying to consume calories just for the sake of it. You have to be smart and strategic so that you're helping, of course, to support muscle gain and giving your body enough calories to aid in muscle gain while also not just trying to get that calorie intake just to get to that calorie intake. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I really hope that you found this helpful and valuable. I know this was slightly shorter than what I normally do, but today was a little chaotic. because I did start the stream originally and then I had to cut it off. So I kind of had to start over from the beginning with this stream. So that's why it's a little bit shorter than before. Because I didn't want to rehash too much of what I discussed when I first started the stream. But again, guys, I really appreciate your time. I really hope that you found this helpful and valuable. You can visit bponlinefitness.com for more information related to online fitness coaching. You can also check out all that I have to offer there. I have a free fitness blog on there. I have an email list that you can sign up to where you can get an email newsletter each and every Monday. I also have videos and previous streams that I've done on there as well. Also, make sure to check out my YouTube channel. So, my YouTube channel, I archive all of my Facebook live streams on there. So, that's why you see a ton of live stream discussions, is that I make sure to archive those. Because on Facebook, generally the streams delete after 30 days. So, I want to make sure that you guys have access to these streams. If you feel like you found this valuable and helpful, please feel free to share it with anybody else that you feel could find this to be helpful in their fitness or nutrition journey. Another thing too is feel free to, like this video, of course, as well as if you are on YouTube, of course, subscribe to my channel. I'm always uploading these streams at the same time. And then if you're not aware, here on Facebook, I do also have a group that you can join. So definitely join on Facebook in my group. If you do want the link to my group, feel free to let me know. But I'm always doing these streams each and every Wednesday. But thank you guys once again for your time. I will see you guys again next Wednesday in the next live stream. If there's any topic you would like me to discuss in the future related to fitness, nutrition, recovery, feel free to let me know. But I really appreciate your time, guys, and I hope that you have a great day. Thank you guys once again for watching.